Welcome to the UIUC Talkshow. Our goal with this show is to introduce you to the most interesting people with the most interesting ideas. Today we have Savannah. Welcome.
Hi.
What's been on your mind lately?
Lately, just probably finals. Thinking about going home. I'm thinking about how much I don't want to be here right now. Like, not here, but at UIUC. I'm ready to go home.
Why is that?
Why is that? It just feels like there's a lot of pressure coming from all around me. And yeah, it feels like mind-numbing, I guess. That's the best word I could use.
Like, are you saying the pressure is because of just schoolwork or?
It's just schoolwork, and then I'm also trying to figure out, you know, do I like my major? Is it where I want to be? And yeah, where can I see myself going after the summer? I think I'm just ready to get to the summer, ready to take a break. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
What made you think about that?
When you think about that?
Yeah.
When you said that?
No, like, why do you think you're not happy with your major? Or
I don't know if it's even like, I think why I'm not happy with my major is just because I feel like it's not, when I do the classes and I do the work, I feel like it's hard, but I don't feel like I'm not interested in it. So even though it feels like it's challenging, it feels like I'm kind of just, I don't know, going through the motions of doing something and trying to try, but it doesn't feel like the effort is there behind my work. It just feels uninteresting, I guess.
you're an electrical engineering major, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And like, what are the other options you think you're like leaning towards right now?
Yeah, so I thought about mechanical engineering. I actually applied into mechanical engineering. I didn't get in. Just they said that there's a lot of people in the department that wanted to be mechanical engineering, and that it wasn't really like an option for me right now. And then I also thought about maybe bioengineering. And then part of me is like, okay, maybe systems, but I don't think I really want to do systems engineering. Yeah, I think if I'm going to do anything, I probably mechanical or electrical, and I guess I have to stick with electrical now. But yeah.
Are you going to continue taking mechanical classes just because you like it?
I would like to, actually.
Yeah.
I just finished ME 170. We
Okay.
had our final presentation, and that was, like I said, I think I told you this earlier, but it's like the most interesting class I took this semester. I really liked it. I told someone, I think I told someone I love CADing, and they were like, oh, I've never heard someone say they love CADing. So it's really cool.
Do you think you can integrate it with your major in any way? Have you thought about that?
I have thought about that. I think it'd be great to have the knowledge to be able to design these things, and then also have the electrical knowledge to be able to put that
Right.
into practice. You can actually develop the full product. So I'm actually doing something right now. I have a project at home. I bought one of the original iMacs.
Oh, okay.
So they call it an iMac G3, and it's like the colored ones.
Right.
Yeah. So my goal is to pretty much shell it but try to keep some components too. And I want to update it to modern day, modern.
Like just switch it out,
Yeah.
like the hardware to
Yeah. So they call that a Hackintosh. But,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
That's nice.
Yeah.
So are you excited to do that over the summer?
I am.
Yeah.
I was supposed to do it over winter break, but then I got COVID, so I was kind of down for 2 weeks. But I'm hoping I can get back on it. And during the summer, I bought 2 of them, and then I bought a G4, which is the one after that. So I have 3 Macs I have nothing to do with. So I'm hoping I can at least do something with one of them.
Are you just able to get it off of eBay or something?
I got them off of, I think I got one off Craigslist, and I got one off Facebook Marketplace. And we drove, got the guy, it was up there for 70, I got the guy to give it to me for 30. And then I got another one that came with a keyboard for 45. So, yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah.
Do you think you would be able to ever do a computer from scratch?
I think so, yeah. Especially, I think with projects, even if I don't have the knowledge right now, and if I really want to achieve something, I can go on Google, I could go on YouTube and just look up how to do it, figure it out, because if I want to get the project done, I'm going to have that knowledge. So I definitely think I could.
But do you think you'd be able to do it without the internet? Let's say there's a book and show called Station 11, and in the book,
I have seen that show.
And in the book, or let's say something in the book, well, what happens is that there's a kind of like a COVID-related pandemic.
Yep.
And then what happens is that people, a lot of people die, and there are no more engineers or anything like that. And the internet goes away, electricity goes away. Anyway, that's a more extreme example. But I think it would be interesting to just sort of if you were to, how would you do that?
How would I do that? So if we're in a Station 11 like world and everyone else is gone, I think I would take what was pre-existing. I would go and find like, current laptops that maybe even though they don't have like the internet right now, I would try to find the source of where these things are located, and I would kind of reverse engineer it, try to figure out how these things are put together, what can I do to produce more of them. Because a lot of things, like if the world just stopped today, like a lot of those things are already produced, a lot of the parts are already produced. So you could probably go and find them, locate them throughout the world. You have nothing else to do, so you probably go and do that. And with the internet's a little bit more trickier. I'm not exactly sure how I would get that back up and running, because it is a satellite. There's a satellite, and I don't know. It would have to I'd have to learn more about that for sure. Hopefully before the world ends. So, yeah.
What's Station 11?
So let me explain. I actually introduced into Station 11. It's a show in a book, but it's a show on HBO Max basically about how there's a huge pandemic and the world ends, and essentially, and these people are dying, and the main character, like his sister's a doctor and calls him, and she's like, you need to go now. Like if you don't go and buy like $10,000 worth of groceries, like you're not going to survive. Like you need to get to like Frank's house, or his brother, and just stay there. So he stays there for like a year. And he comes out and like everyone's gone, but you kind of just see that over the course of like 25 years, like how the world evolved after the pandemic ended. And the people that lived were like the people that were like consumers. So they didn't know how to build anything. So it was a lot of like artists, a lot of theater students, people like that. And so there's actually, the main group in the story is called, God, what are they called? The Traveling Symphony. And they travel around just performing like Shakespearean plays, because no one has any other source of entertainment. Like, like the phones are dead. The electricity, like that went out after like 2 years after the pandemic ended. And then like gas expires after like 2 years too. So there's no cars, there's no nothing. And they're basically just living in like the remnants of this world. One of the groups even lives in like an airport, like a abandoned airport. Interesting.
So was it like, how old is this book? Was it based off?
It just came out like a couple years ago. Yeah.
So was it like based off of the?
It came out before.
Before.
Yeah. So that's really interesting to me too, because it's kind of like this lady who she wrote the book. She predicted it, but it's a really good. It's really weird, but it's really good. Like it was one of those shows where I couldn't watch more than one episode at a time. I kind of had to pace myself because I needed time to just digest everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you ever like go through these thought experiments if something like this happened and you were
like, what would I do?
Yeah. What would you do?
I don't know. Like if something like that happened, and it depends on how much time I have to, like how much notice I have and how much time I have until like something happens to me, I guess, or my family. So I think my first thought would be to get my family, or maybe my family would try to get me. And if that didn't work out, I think I would just try to stock up on as much food as possible and try to find some safe place to go. I don't think it'd be my apartment or anything like that. It'd have to be somewhere like isolated. It'd have to be somewhere that I also have maybe resources available to me too. I don't know. Maybe I go to like an army base or something.
But like, how would you enter that?
My brother was a Marine, so I could.
Okay.
I'd call him up, but I don't know. He's also lives far from here, and yeah, I don't know. He's kind of out there, so yeah.
Let's say the world was gonna end like tomorrow, and
I knew today.
Yeah, you knew it. Like it's gonna end tomorrow. What would you do with the 24 hours you have? 24
hours I have. Am I dying when the world ends, or no?
You don't know that.
I don't know.
You just know that something bad is gonna happen tomorrow.
Okay, well, I would leave. I would get up and leave right now. But I would also, I don't know. I have a car here on campus, so I would probably I would go back to my apartment. I would grab like the necessities, like food, probably clothes, maybe my wallet, car keys, sure. Pack up the car. We're gonna go. I don't know. I think I would probably try to travel back to my house. It's 2 hours away. I don't know. I'd grab those people and I would just go.
Like, have you seen Don't Look Up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So imagine similar sort of event happening, right? And you're not one of the.
That's the worst one because there's no way to stop that. I mean, there was a way to stop that, but.
I mean, you're not a billionaire and you don't have a spaceship to just jump onto and go to another planet. What do you do with the time you have left?
I would just try to, I don't know, yeah, tell my family how much I love them, and just really, I don't want to say like submit to what's going to happen, but I feel like there's no other choice. I don't know. I might try to figure out where I can go to encourage these people to try something else, to try to break it up, or I would do one of those two things, or maybe both. I would say go out of my family, so much I love them, and then, yeah, you just go and figure out where these people are that need to figure out what to do with this asteroid or whatever it is.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, you never know. And I think at those points, you just have to be peaceful and accept it at some point.
Yeah, and it's terrible because even in that movie, like, they didn't want to accept it. The guy was like, there's got to be another way, and there was another way. They were just being stupid. They thought that they could mine this giant asteroid for, like, materials that could be used in phones and other things, and these first people were putting their money ahead of like literally billions of people's lives. It's a crazy movie. Also really sad. It just ends and you're just like, that's it? That's it? That's what's gonna happen? Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of asteroid deflecting.
Deflecting.
Yeah, research. And it's actually pretty cool. They use a bunch of lasers and like stuff like that. So I don't think that's gonna happen. Maybe not in that way. But there are people who you look up to, people you would call heroes.
Okay.
And in today's society, a hero, there are not a lot of them nowadays, And in the past, fame was a consequence of being a hero.
Okay.
In a way.
Yeah.
Like the heroes in the past were people who did great deeds for society, and they were famous because of that. Nowadays, not so much. People famous today are usually celebrities or politicians, and it's kind of conflicted. But you have people you would call probably heroes, such as Steve Jobs.
Yes.
Like, what's one thing that you would say that you would like to, like, what would you consider him a hero or something like that?
I don't know if I like the word hero. I think it's kind of, saying a hero is like, when you say hero, like, what do you think of? I mean, like, I think of, like, superheroes, right? You're like, oh, Superman, Iron Man, all these people, but what do? Right? They supposedly changed the world, right? But I think Steve Jobs, like, he definitely changed the world. So I guess in that sense, he is a hero. I think of him more as, like, an innovator. Like, he's like a pioneer of success, a pioneer of, like, what the modern day standard should be. Like, if you, like, I recently watched the Steve Jobs movie. Actually, I wrote an article about it. You should read it. But he basically talks about how people did not like working for him because he was very, like, aggressive, very, like, intent on making things great. And so, like, people would come to him and be like, oh, like, we changed this one thing, like the command line in the iMac, the original one. And he'd be like, oh, like okay, it looks. They'd be like, it looks fine. He'd be like, oh, it looks fine. It looks fine. Like, he like fired a guy on the spot for saying it looked fine. He's like, it needs to look great. It should be great. Everything should be great. Like everything you do should be great. It should be notable because if we're not giving our customers like the greatest thing that's available to us, like that it could be available to them, like we're doing a disservice to them. And so that's what made people so frustrated to work with him because his projects would take like a long time, like years, just to develop something perfect. And something I wrote about too in this article is that a lot of the Apple products that exist today would not exist if he was still around, because he would not have let like iPhones look the same, like almost the same for like 2 years in a row. Like we'd probably be on like iPhone like 10 right now. Like there would probably be less iterations. He probably wouldn't have tried so hard to get one out every year. Like that was not his intention or not the method. It doesn't matter the timeline as long as you have the best materials available to you. It's very interesting. Like his whole like thought process, his whole mind. I think it'd be really very cool to meet him if he was still around. But
you think the companies today, or any company, still follows those ideals where they value the customer more than what they're earning or just the service they're providing?
I like to think that. I think I would definitely say younger companies, like the startups, that's more their intention because they come from the younger generation. And the younger generation values like happiness over money. Versus if you go and talk to people like my parents or like, I don't know, anyone's parents here, they probably would say, oh, like why did I do what I did? Like I did it for the money. And I think in a lot of companies right now that's where they're at too. They say they care about innovation and all these things, but they also care about money. Like again, we go back to Apple, like they take like the iPad and the MacBook, like they could have combined those products like years ago because the most laptops nowadays are touchscreen. But they won't do that because they would lose sales on both of their products if it became one product. But it also might be a risk that would pay off because they might sell more of those units if it was something that was touchscreen, and it had the Apple Pencil. Like imagine a MacBook that had the Apple Pencil and it was touchscreen. Like that would be crazy. Because
okay, go ahead.
And I was talking about this with him too. Like I use my iPad just for taking notes. That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what they're doing with the iPad now, right? Like they have the keyboard,
Yeah.
and like it basically is an iMac.
Yeah,
Like a
but
MacBook.
then what's the point of having it? I don't know. Like it's to me, and then you have like a less quality operating system. Like for me, like not that it's less quality, but it's like iOS versus like Mac OS is completely different. So why would you have? I don't know. Like to me, it's harder to navigate iOS as like a laptop.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason behind that is just convenience. That you just have like a compact device that you can just send emails on, or just have something to like write notes in, and maybe just having a laptop makes it more official or maybe cumbersome to some. And I think just iPad, the fact that you can just have your keyboard on it, like with the cover, and just like open it, it's just so fast. And
I agree. And maybe some people have different preferences.
Yeah.
They could always keep those two and then have something like that
Right.
in the middle. But
But don't you think Steve Jobs was doing it for himself more as to other people? Sure, you could say he was obsessed over the customers and he wanted the customers, but in a way he was doing it for himself.
he was, because it was this thing that like drove him forward. Like, he talked about like again like in the movie, there was this quote in the beginning where like he dropped out of Reed College where he was attending, and the guy the like one of the guidance counselors that came up to him and he was like oh like Jobs like you're still here, whatever. And he's like, oh, I'm not a student. He's like, well, you're here, like you're learning, you're a student. Like you really like electronics, like why don't you become like an electrician? And Jobs was like, oh, like why would I want to become something as forgettable like as an electrician? So like I think he was really just trying to push himself forward, trying to push his limits, see what he could develop, because he really did change the world that way. And I think if like your goal is to change the world, you have to keep pushing yourself to the limits, because you assume you have these limits in place, but if you're not pushing yourself, how are you ever going to know if these are actually your limits? If you can break past these things. Yeah.
you think it's easy to have that kind of mentality in today's world? With just, I don't know, like it was a different world back then, like,
Yeah.
and the Silicon Valley was still coming up. People were like more, I don't know. I don't want to say hardworking, because people are still very hardworking today, but it was just a different era, and like the internet wasn't a big thing back then.
Yeah. The Apple was literally the first producer of like the personal computer, right?
Right.
Yeah. But it's kind of just like, yeah, I don't know. It's pretty crazy. I feel like the mentality back then, I think it was easier to be like, I guess, optimistic about the future and optimistic about like the internet and what it was going to be. But he still had like a lot of people doubt him. Like he presented it at a conference, like the first personal computer with Steve Wozniak, and no one was listening. People were like coughing, like talking to each other. People got up and left. It took like one guy who bought like some of these computers to sell in his store, and then like an investor who literally gave him like, it was like $90,000 something to start his company, and they only needed like $20,000. But he was still like, Jobs was still like, oh, like $90,000, like he goes, that's not going to be enough. Like we also need this much interest, and then we also need like a $200,000 like credit so we can start buying things too. And the guy agreed. But I think today in this world, like it's just like, I think we get distracted. I think with the phones and all those other things, we get distracted by little things and by busy work, and we don't really see that the work we're working on isn't like life-changing work. And I think a lot of these like startups, if you get stuck in like one of these jobs, these big companies, you kind of just become like another cog in the machine. You're not really pushing forward like any agenda other than the companies. So I think if you really want to change the world, you have to figure out like what your purpose is, why you want to change it, and how you're going to do that, and not just be blind and go forward and like looking for money.
Who would you equate to in today's world who's a similar kind of visionary to like Steve Jobs?
I think the first thought for sure is like Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I think he's a different type of visionary. I actually think they wouldn't have gotten along. I don't think Steve Jobs and Elon Musk would have gotten along. But I think that Elon Musk is definitely pushing things forward. He wants things to be great, but he's also kind of cocky about it in the way that he kind of thinks he's better than everyone else. Like you can see, like he posts some crazy stuff on Twitter sometimes, but I don't know. He's also a game changer. Teslas are literally taking over the world, and then SpaceX is SpaceX is working with NASA now to bring astronauts to the space station, whereas astronauts used to have to go to Russia to go to the space station. So. It's pretty crazy. Like he's definitely the next type of visionary, and I'm interested to see who the next one will be. So, yeah.
But I do think it's a lot easier. Sure, you could say Silicon Valley was starting and whatever, but I think at the time it was a lot harder to change things like that. I think the hardest thing for like young people to do, it's like if you want to change the quote unquote change the world, you need to be out of the system. Because the system, you know, Steve Jobs would say, the system can only produce a system. So if you want to like build a system, yeah, sure, you can go to college and like learn what it's like to be in the system and build the system. But if you don't want to be in the system, you want to do things outside, then you need to go outside of the system.
You figure out how to break out of it. There's this thing called the cycle of socialization. So I'm going to be an RA next semester, so I had to take this RA class, and this is something they talked about. But basically, it's just the thought of that, like when you grow up, like you're influenced by your parents, the environment, just everything around you, and you kind of just get stuck in this loop of just what everyone else did before you, basically. And that if you want to be liberated, you have to like go through the cycle of liberation, like recognize what around you needs to change, why you want to change, and kind of break free. So I don't know. It's you have to figure out what's your reason for breaking free. Why are you breaking free? How do you break free? And yeah, like you said, it's like the system produces the system, because you're going to be like if we're here at college, like you need to be careful because like you said, if you want to make sure if you really want to change the world, like. Think about how you're going to do that like right now, because don't think about like, oh, like my life hasn't started yet. Like your life has started. Your life is, it's never going to be like the perfect time to do something. You're just going to have to just do it and kind of just dive in, because you're already here. You're already living, and you could die tomorrow. You don't know. So.
Well, I mean, Steve Jobs didn't know when he dropped out of college that he was going to become a super
No,
guy.
he just did it.
But do you think he knew at that point?
No, I just think he recognized that he was special. And I think, and here's the thing, all of us are special,
Okay,
right?
but he wasn't good at programming. He wasn't good at
No, but
he
he
wasn't good at anything. Pretty
no,
much.
but he liked electronics a lot. Like he liked, if you read the book, like he like loved it. He said his dad was very like much a mechanical guy. His dad was like what's the word? Like he used to fix cars and stuff like that.
Mechanic.
Yeah, he was a mechanic. and so, but he was always interested in the electronic parts of what he was working on. And his dad like didn't get it. But he was like, oh, like can I play with the circuit? And his dad was like, oh, yeah, go ahead, whatever. But he loved it. Like that was the thing that like spurred him forward. And he just like when he dropped out of college, I don't know. He didn't know what was going to happen, but he knew that he was going to do something. He was going to go somewhere. Like he worked at Atari first, if you know what Atari is.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
But today everyone tells you need to be really good at something in order to make something really good. Like we just had a professor here, business professor. He does a lot of research on what it takes to be, this progress in society and stuff like that. And he would say that in order to make this leaps in progress, it's really hard because everything is more specialized and everything else, whatever. But for him, he wasn't really good at anything.
Yeah.
I mean, we could say he was good at with talking to people and stuff like that. Like today, people tell you, you need to be really good at one thing, or you need to be really good at mechanical engineering, or whatever. And okay, I want to change the world, but everyone's telling you, you need to be good at one thing.
I think people like to give a lot of advice. I think there's a lot of advice given today, and like, I don't know, how much advice can be given before it's like the wrong type of advice you're going to be getting, right? And then you look at who's giving you this advice too. What makes them more qualified to tell you how to live their lives, live your life anyway, than them being older than you. Like that's it. And I don't know, you have to kind of, at some point you have to figure out, like, how do I want to live my life? Do I want to specialize? Do I want to do other things? And can I do both? Can I specialize and do other things? Yeah, you can do that. Just be who you are. I don't think it's that hard. I think people make it really complicated, and it doesn't have to be that complicated. Just live your life.
But it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Like once you're in the system, like we
And I say that, but like I have the worst time. Like I've had the worst time, like trying to figure out, like, oh God, I'm in the system. Like I don't want to be an electrical engineer. I don't want to do that. So what do I want to do? And you hear advice from people like, oh come on, like keep going. Like you're in your second year, like keep going. Okay, yeah, but I feel like I've wasted these 2 years because I don't like what I'm doing, and I don't feel like I've learned much. I feel like, especially during COVID, like that was a time when we were working with other people to do our homework and working with other people to just get things done and just basically survive. And that year, I feel like I didn't learn that much at all. And now a lot of that knowledge is kind of knowledge I needed like going forward in like my upper classes, and like EC 210, like that's God, what's it called? It's analog signal processing. And I didn't do well in that class. I actually had to drop the class because I didn't have like the great foundation that I needed to kind of succeed. So it's hard. You just kind of, I don't know how to escape the system either. I'm trying, but yeah.
So do you drop out? Like what do you do if you had to? Like,
If I had to do it right now?
No, because like you want to change the world, and you're not going to be able to change the world if you're in the system.
Well,
is that accurate?
I don't know if I'd say that. I think you can change the world if you're in the system, but you have to figure out when to break the rules. and when to not follow the rules and when to not follow advice. You have to be very much like individualized, like with one mindset that you want to move forward, figure out how you're going to do that, and not try to be like a people pleaser. Because if you're a people pleaser, you're going to keep trying to please the people in the system, and you won't get to where you want to get.
But going back to the question of like Silicon Valley and change the world and stuff like that, I think it's a lot easier now to change the world if you're young. Especially, there's a lot of people, like developments of people giving money to young people, no matter if they have a college degree or like they're just looking for hardworking people who are smart and motivated, and they're giving people the opportunity to, you don't have to be in the system. I'll just give you money. I'll give you a way for you to survive through a couple of years as a way to, do something. Like, but the options are there, but it takes something else and to say just screw it. I'm just gonna do that because something doesn't feel right for me. It doesn't like something it's missing in a way. Because like yeah, sure I could do that, right? But something tells me like maybe there's some value here still. How would you think about such a question?
What do you mean? What was your question? Exactly?
Like how would you think about that in order to change the world is what you said. Pretty much, you could be in the system if you want, but you need to know when to break the rules and everything.
Okay, yeah.
But there's something that wasn't there before is that there's a lot of people out there in the world that are giving you the opportunity to kind of break out of the system, be on your own, and do your own thing. But like you said, let's say you're going to be in the system. Like, how would you think about how to decide whether not to, go in the system, break out of the system? That was confusing.
It was, but I think it depends on what you define the system as. If you define the system as like a college system, you want to break out of that, then you can do that.
I mean, college system, because the college system prepares you for the next system, which is the job market. And once you're in the job market, you get a job, and they pay you, and then you get a rent, and then you get a car, and then you get responsibilities, and then you're kind of in the system. You cannot break out because you have these things, these expenses, and you need money in order to pay for that. And you're not going to be able to do that. It's just way too hard. Once you have a car payment, once you have insurance, once you have all these things.
Well, yeah, it's that, and then like if you have a family and all that, like too, that's something that also is going to rely on you. So you have to figure out like what you want to do before you do any of that, pretty much. And it's hard because like people always tell you when you're growing up, like, oh, like don't worry about what you're going to be. Like you have so many years, and then I feel like those years just flew by because now I'm 20 and I'm almost 21, and it's like, okay, like what am I going to be? I don't know. Like honestly, I feel like the career that I want, like it doesn't exist. I don't know what that would be. I don't know. Part of me still like some days I think I'm going to be a doctor. Some days I think I'm going to be a lawyer. Some days I'm like, okay, I want to go freaking start a company. Like it'd be awesome. I don't know what the company's goal is going to be. I don't know, but I feel like it'd be cool. I feel like I'd like it. Yeah, I always think about too, like, this doesn't relate to your question at all, but if we lived in the like 1800s, think about this a lot. Like, what would you have been if you in a simpler world? Like, what would you have been? I think that's an interesting question to think about.
What would you have been?
Okay, so I think the question has a misnomer that from this vantage point, we would say that it's simpler. But if you were living in that era,
it would not be simple.
Right. Because then you would be comparing that era to
like the 1600s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So imagine you're in the year 2200, and you would definitely see this life simpler. How would you think about your questions that you don't know the answers to?
I think as society evolves and technology evolves, more and more careers open up. So I think in 200 years, they're gonna be like, oh, like I wish I could have been like a professor, but now I have to be like a matrix technologist or whatever the hell is gonna exist. But I don't know. I think everyone wishes they lived in a different era. Like for me, I wish I lived in the 80s. I feel like I would have loved the 80s, but that's a different story. But yeah, every area is simpler. I don't know what kind of advice you would give that person to just say, I don't know, live your life. I think when there's different eras, there's different things available to you. You kind of have to just be the one that's going to push things forward, whatever direction it is that you think things need to be pushed forward in.
Do you also think that just thinking about living in another era makes you unhappy in the era that you're living in?
That's true too. That's true too. I watched a movie called Midnight in Paris.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that one kind of talks about how like this guy like goes to Paris and he talks about how like living in like I think it's like living in the 20s was like the golden era, and like everyone wanted like he really wanted to live in the 20s. So he ends up like traveling back in time and living in the 20s, and he like loves it. But then the girl he's with, like he meets a girl from the 20s, and she's like, oh, like the Renaissance was like the golden era. Like I want to live in the Renaissance. And so she ends up like traveling back to the Renaissance. But you realize is that like every person in their era thinks a different era was the golden era. Yeah. So I think, I don't know, looking forward is harder than looking back, I would say.
I think that can be a driver for someone, just thinking that, okay, the future is going to be much harder than this, and if I can find a way to realize that what the state I'm in right now is simpler than it would be in the future, like I would be much more inclined or much more capable of doing things that can help, help me reach my full potential in that state.
Yeah, I agree with that. I love like my thing is I love like simplicity and like design and like everything, and I love bright colors too. Like I'm always wearing bright shirts, but I think that that's kind of my motivator, is to make things more simple but also complex, like in life. Like I don't know how to explain that, but I want things to look as simple as possible while being like extremely complex and being very cool and like, you know, and having like the latest technology, whatever it is. Yeah, so I think those type of things moving forward, that's going to be the type of thing that drives our world, is like things that are like simple to the consumer, simple to like the general public, but the way that they're made up are hard. It's hard. It's complex.
What do the 80s mean to you?
What do the 80s mean to me?
And why not the 90s or 70s?
Yeah, I think the 80s is like this time of like wild, crazy fun. Like of course I was not alive, but again, they had all the bright colors, like the crazy colors, like the teals and the pinks and whatever. I love all the music from the 80s. That's like pretty much, I listen to a lot of music, but I listen to that type of stuff a lot. The 80s just mean like, it's like exploration, it's like discovery. It's people playing around with different sound. Like if you hear like a song, you know it's from the 80s. And it's just like, it was that era of like people of like Michael Jackson and Prince and all those people that I guess made the 80s what they are. And it just seems like more like a fun atmosphere, I guess. But if I went back there, it probably wouldn't be that fun. Like there was no, like cell phones were just coming into play. Again, like personal computers were like, they were out, but like they probably kind of sucked. But yeah, things were advancing still like they are now. And the same with the 90s. The 90s, people had cell phones, but not everyone. Like my mom told me she didn't get a cell phone until like, I don't know, she was like 23, something like that. But still, it was like one of those really clunky ones. Yeah, it's just, I think every era has the thing that makes it like that era, but we also have to move forward. You can't just stay stuck in the 80s, you can't stay stuck in the 90s, because there is no perfect era. We need to keep moving forward. Yeah. Just like I think about the 2010s too, because that's when I grew up, of course, and you both grew up in that time as well. But yeah, a lot of things happened in the 2010s too, a lot of advancements. If you think about like Steve Jobs died in 2011, and I think that was like the iPhone 4, iPhone 5, and then iPhone 4 to like the iPhone 13 where we are now. Like think about all the advancements we've made.
I mean, really? I mean, I don't see that there's many, beyond a better camera, faster speeds.
Yeah, that's fair. I would say that, yeah, nothing's really changed beyond this, besides the size of the phone and the internal components. And
it's more internal than
like the look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a little different.
It's pretty different. They don't even support those phones anymore, the iPhone 4.
Yeah, sure, but like...
Right, it's not the kind of leaps that were happening initially, right? The changes aren't that drastic. It's just, if it works, don't break it. Like.
Then I think about go back to like 1969, like the moon landing too. Like that was like a big thing too that happened. And thinking about how we can like get more people excited about like space travel now. Like we have not gone back to the moon since then. Like why haven't we gone back since then? I don't know. Like we have the technology to do it. We have all these things that are available to us, but we haven't. I think maybe they're running out of money. I'm not sure. But that's just another example. Like we have all these technological advancements, but we're not really utilizing them.
Well, because technology isn't just a thing; just keeps going, advancing. You need to put progress in hard work.
Yeah, I agree.
And it takes people like the guy from Apple. He was like, hey. He was not very nice, but he would push people. Maybe people are not pushing themselves that much.
A lot of people are just happy being I guess, who they are and being non-changing. If you look at the general public, like most people, like they don't aspire to be like most people. Well, some people aspire to be famous, whatever, but they just aspire to be not more than they already are, pretty much. They don't think that they can do much more than they already do, and that's kind of sad too. But they're also comfortable living that life. So I don't know. It's like you have to have the people that want to improve and want to succeed. Like those people need to be, I guess, leading humanity.
Yeah, I think something I've been thinking a lot about is that there seems to be a lot of NPC people, I think, to me.
That's what I was thinking about too, actually, the other day.
Like, could that be true? Like, it's just like it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, there's just like
Yeah.
a lot of them out there, just
I was
running
thinking,
around.
like lately, I've been thinking about like the sheer number, like the volume of people that are on this planet, and like how you're most likely like you're only going to meet like I don't even know, like 1% of them in your
1% is
lifetime.
also too much.
That's like
Like
way too much.
0.5%. Like you're
no,
gonna like.
wait, that's like way less.
Like it's just crazy to me how many people are out there. Like I can't even like imagine it. Like imagine the sheer volume, and it's just like you think about like, why are the people that are famous? Like why are they the chosen ones, or whatever? And then you think about like I don't know, just like I said, like all these people you can't see, and they're just out there, and it's just. And then you think about like what's the point of life? Like you're just living, and then you're dying. Like that's it. you're living, you're dying, and that's it. And like your legacy supposedly like lives on after you die, but. I don't know. There's also like a quote from Hamilton. I'm going way off topic now. There's a quote from Hamilton that goes from Aaron Burr. He like actually is the one who killed Hamilton, and he goes, you have no control who lives, who dies, who tells your story. So like when you die, like you have no control like what your legacy is or like how your story is told and all these things. Like how you act in your life like determines how you're seen after death and how you're seen during your life. And I don't know. There's a lot of thought going on there. I'm like the master overthinker. So.
No, like it's. I mean, I think between the three of us, I think we've all thought about it at some point. And it's just crazy that your narrative gets decided based on how others perceive you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like your what?
Your narrative.
narrative.
Yeah. Your story.
Yeah, your story.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to an extent.
To an extent, yes. But I mean, there are so many people. Like I don't think every hero that died. Every person that's hailed as a hero today was purely good. I'm pretty sure that person has done.
Everyone has their flaws.
Well,
Right.
I usually say that's the definition of a human.
Right. But
Imperfectness.
everyone, like, they just remember the good parts of that person.
Well, that's
what they like to do. They like to see them. They call it with like rose-colored glasses. You like to see them with like a shade of like pink, making that it's like you see them only the good in them.
Who are you thinking of?
Like, okay, she mentioned Hamilton, right?
Yeah.
So that made me think of Jefferson. And
Okay. Yeah.
And we know about the slavery stuff
Yeah.
and
I
everything.
mean, all of them had slaves too. Like Washington had slaves.
Right.
Well, but like looking back and thinking that ourselves are more like we look back and we think that we're more morally superior than them. But the thing is, sure, we have this knowledge and we know what history happened. But at that point, like slaves were like
Normal.
cars. Was that okay? I'm not saying whether case was bad or nothing. But at the point where they were like cars. They were like an asset, like having horses or having cows. Was that okay? Well, we know what happened in history, but we cannot just like look back and say, "Oh, these people were horrible."
Well, we're not saying that, but we're just saying everyone has their flaws, right? Their errors. Yeah. But like even Hamilton, the whole freaking Hamilton musical is about how like people thought he was amazing. He was terrible. Like he cheated on his wife. He of course he was like extremely. He was supposed to like be partners with Aaron Burr, and he like downplayed him, basically like stepped on him to get to where he was. And then Aaron Burr shot him. But was that right? I don't know. But it happened. Yeah, and they thought they were gonna have like a duel. I don't know. And then his son ended up dying because he also got into a duel over his father. I don't know. It's a mess. Anyway.
You call him a visionary?
Hamilton?
Yeah.
No.
No?
Maybe? I don't know.
Okay, but like, have you okay? So he wasn't even born in the U.S. So he was born in some island. I forgot the name, and he already had like these huge businesses.
I think he was born in the Bahamas. I don't
Yes.
know if that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
okay.
age 14. At that age,
But
young.
why does that mean visionary though?
No. It's just start. And then after that, he had a lot of thinking of how, like, government and it's a lot more politics things, like government and the monetary system, and a lot of the things with like how the U.S. ended up being, like for example, like debt. That was something he did. like the U.S. would borrow money to other people, and what they would do instead of like, oh, just pay me back or something, he created some sort of incentive structure to, I guess, it's more high level, but things that are a little hidden that you cannot just say, oh, Hamilton became the first president or something, because it's not as easy to see those things that he did. That's what I'm saying. But I think Hamilton was great.
Yeah.
In those aspects.
I guess in those senses, yeah, he was very much like, I guess you could relate him to Steve Jobs in that sense too. Like he was just like, he wanted to push things forward. He wanted to make sure that like there's some part of the musical where they talk about these essays they wrote. I don't know, I remember what the essays before, but he wrote.
Right.
They were supposed to write like 100 essays or something. He ended up writing like 52 of the essays when he was only supposed to write like 20. And like Aaron Burr just like cannot believe it, like how he writes like he's running out of time, like he writes like the world's ending, but he's just got like that motivation. So I guess in that sense he is a visionary. Like he sees what he wants and he's getting it. He's getting it. He's changing the world, right? Because of course we remember him now. And then like when Lin-Manuel Miranda like decided to make his musical, like it happened because he was reading the biography on Hamilton and was like, how has no one made a musical about this guy yet? Like because no one else is thinking about that. No one else is thinking about like, oh, I need to make a musical. But that was his thing. So you could say Lin-Manuel Miranda was also a visionary because he created that thing so the whole world could learn about Hamilton.
In a very creative way, because you could say, oh, I'm going to write a book or something. Or,
Yeah, because no one would have read the book. Exactly.
Right.
But the musical is something, requires minimal effort. You just go in and you watch. Yeah.
Isn't he kind of took what he liked and made it his own through a musical?
Yeah.
And
And that's like the best products do that too. The best products require minimal effort for the consumer. It's just something that's the person can kind of just open the box and they know how to use it. It's done. Yeah.
What do you think of this consumerist mentality? Like everything that all these companies are doing today is to promote consumerism, right? Because it supports sales, they make better profits, they put out more products that again encourages more consumerism. But from a moral standpoint, what are your thoughts on consumerism?
I think that, I don't think it's good, of course not, but I think that it's very easy to be a consumer in today's. Like they make it almost too easy. Like Amazon has like a one-click buy thing. You buy it, you click the button, it's bought, it's getting shipped to your house. And it's easier than going to Walmart. It's like you can do it for your bed, you can do it for your couch, and then it's shipped to you. But then there's also like you're wasting all these materials, like the packing materials, and just every product that is made is just another thing that eventually is going to end up in a landfill too. There's a popular fashion company right now called I think it's called Shine or Shein. It's Shein, and people like love this company, but they're known as for having like fast fashion. So you just go on the app, and it's really cheap. Like you can get like a dress for like $3 or something like that, and they will ship it to your house. It might take a little bit because it's coming from like China, but it'll ship it to your house, and it's basically like based off the best brands right now or whatever. But because people buy it so cheap, like they don't value the clothes as much. So they ended up just donating it to like Goodwill or they sell it somewhere like a resale shop like Plato's Closet or something. And this stuff just keeps getting cycled and cycled and cycled because they're just churning it out over there in China, and people are buying it and then selling it back, and then eventually if it doesn't sell, it's going into a landfill or it's getting donated to it's getting donated to like homeless shelters or something. But I don't think that's good either. Like I think about that, like it's very easy to go on this app and say, oh my god, I love that shirt, like I'm gonna buy this, I'm gonna buy that. I did it last summer and I was like, why did I buy that? Like I didn't need it, and it's just it's someone over in China is getting paid probably not enough to make this for me. And I don't know, like it's just, how do you stop like this fast fashion, like, and I guess the whole consumerism mentality? I don't know, because I don't think it's good. But the people promote sustainability now too, but even sustainable things like are being overconsumed too.
Sure, like yeah, because anything that's being overconsumed is going to be bad.
Yeah, but they promote it as sustainable. Like even like the water bottles, right? Like you can recycle the water bottles right now, but there are so many things that need to be recycled that they can't recycle everything. So it's actually like they've been shipping like U.S. has been shipping pallets of like recyclable material to like places like China and to smaller islands, and they just sit there for like years because they don't have enough room to recycle those materials. It's crazy. I don't know. There has to be a better way, I think.
I think it's just like a part of the marketing, right? Because they want to advertise it as a product that's going to be fine in the cycle, like in the life cycle of the product, so the consumer can be at ease and before buying the product, like, okay, this is going to get recycled at some point.
Yeah, that's exactly.
right. So it's just they're just playing.
They're playing, and it's really when you consume anything, it's not good for the earth. That's just bottom line. It's not good. It's not good. So, because it's taking things from, I don't know, even like they sell like bamboo, like they like bamboo toothbrushes and bamboo like cutlery sets now too. Like, okay, it's comes from a tree, but why does that make it good? Like I don't know. It still takes effort. It still takes labor to send it over to where you're going to be. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think there's just like one level of thinking. Just like one level, you could think like, yeah, consuming anything from the earth is bad. Therefore, we should not consume anything.
We have to.
Right, but like you could say like, okay, consuming is bad. Therefore, we should not consume anything because it's bad for the earth. But the next step would be we need to think a lot harder about thinking about finding ways to make people not buy as much, and they still can make money. And second of all, there's engineering things.
But that's what everyone wants, right? Everyone wants like the best thing, like the best quality product, best thing for the earth for like the cheapest price too. And they want it to benefit them and benefit the earth and benefit the person. But like this is not possible.
Why
like
not?
You can't. I mean, everyone can't win. I mean, if they can, like, why haven't we come up with that yet?
Well, that's why we need to think harder.
Yeah, I agree. But because I don't know, if you tax the person extra for buying something, I guess you're not really helping the company either, because the tax is probably going to the state. It's just like.
But it adds the extra friction. Like there's many studies of when people add tax to like alcohol or like tobacco or something.
Like they say, like I read something online the other day when I watched the Don't Look Up movie. I read an article online, like, you know, what is the Earth going to look like in like 2050, and it was like a narrative about that, and they were like, oh, like like it's the year 2050, like in order to get water, like you have to pay like 25 cents, like it's kind of like a payphone. You have to pay like 25 cents, and you'll get like a gallon of water or something like that. Or maybe it was like from the tap or something like that. It was just like, it tried to illustrate there's going to be a lot of extra barriers in like 2050 because the world temperature is going to be up too, so you're going to have to like stay indoors. It's like places like Dubai, it's going to be too hot to go outside. You're going to die if you're outside for more than like an hour, something like that. So it's just interesting to see like, I want to see if these predictions are going to be real, or if our quality of life is still going to be as it is today in 2050.
It'll probably be the same as today.
Do you think so?
Yeah. Or better.
Why? Why do you think that?
Well, because it's people who are, it's a lot easier to be this sort of like pessimist because.
You think they're being pessimists, or you think they're being realistic?
I think it's not a good way to look at it. It's the bad framing.
Why?
Well, because there's a pessimist view of, like pessimism at first could be as an intelligent view to see things.
Mm-hmm.
We have many people in the past. The most famous one has been Malthus, and he predicted that in the 1800s or something, everyone in England was going to die because we didn't have enough food. Have you heard of this?
No.
The Malthus?
Yeah.
So this guy was like, oh my God, everyone's going to die, whatever. He created this graph and everything. He was completely wrong. We figured it out. We have a lot more people on the earth. We have a lot more resources for them to eat and everything. And it's a lot harder to see what type of things the human race will invent that will offset those bad things that we think are going to happen. But it's a lot harder to think, no, everything will be fine. We will do something better, because it requires having this belief that we know it works because we've seen it in the past, but we don't know how exactly it's going to happen. So if I tell you, oh, how? I don't know. But I think it will be better because
I think a lot of people, though, are just thinking that someone else is going to solve it.
Well,
no. You don't need to worry about it.
Well, that's what you need. That's what.
And
that's
exactly like, like there's a famous like child activist, like, Greta Thunberg, is her name? Yeah. And she's talking about like, we have like this, I think was it the UN? Like they put out this, they have the global sustainability initiatives, and they have like, they say like by 2030, right, like we're like gonna be past the date that it's gonna be too late to save the earth, basically. And so she had this plea, like I remember in 2020, where she was just like crying on the television about how we are like the children, and how the adults owe it to us, like to be improving the earth, to be improving our circumstances, and all these things. I don't know. I wonder how many, like, what percentage of people are thinking that things are just going to get better, and who's actually working on something to solve this? Because I don't know. We have 8 years now. It's 2022. So, and is that true too? Is it actually 2030? Is that actually the point?
Yeah, I don't think that's true. But a lot of these things are just a way to scare people and not get complacent. But what ends up becoming is just people get more complacent because they
just accept it.
just accept.
Pretty much, and like I said, they expect someone else to do something about it.
It's like, like electric car, for instance. Like, I have a hard time believing that anyone else would have done something with electric cars to an extent that Tesla has done.
I agree with you.
If he didn't decide, for example, to like do something like that, like would have something, I don't know, because we don't know
But it's the same way with like SpaceX, right?
Right.
And we can go back to Apple and go back to all those, I don't know, the other tech companies too. Like if Apple hadn't done something, like all the other things would not have existed, or they wouldn't have existed as early as it did. Like the personal computer would have existed if, like, let's say Apple was eroded, like it probably would have existed like 10 years later. That's my guess. And the same thing with like NASA right now. If SpaceX didn't exist, like they wouldn't be going to the International Space Station because we're at war with Russia right now, kind of. But I don't know. You just have to think about how these visionaries are like, they are shaping history. Because, like you said, no one will be doing anything with electric cars, really.
Or they would, but it wouldn't have been as...
It wouldn't have been as, like, there's other electric cars, of course. Like, Kia just released one.
But it was kind of like more of as a pressure thing because everyone is doing it, so I must do it too.
Yeah. But there's also, my mom was telling me about this. There's some sort of, like, initiative right now. If you buy an electric car, it cannot be a Tesla, but if you buy an electric car, you get some sort of, like, I think you get, like, $5,000 back in taxes, which is pretty cool. But it can't be a Tesla because all the manufacturers of it have like a certain number of cars they can sell that like abide by this rule. But it's interesting because I think people are still going to buy Teslas no matter what. Like they want the best of the best.
It's the best one.
Yeah.
I mean, comparing to other ones, it just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, depends what you're looking for in your car.
Well, but the best one, and always, like, sure, like,
But
I
it's
mean,
also
range,
costlier.
like, not, yeah, sure, but
Yeah.
like, if you're looking
But
for a
in the
good
long
car,
run, it's going to last. Versus you're going to get something that's never been tested before, like the Kia one.
I mean, there are other companies who are still making electric cars. So.
Of course.
the solar car team,
Check them out. But yeah, and then like Formula Electric too.
so what? I'm kidding. But we do need these people to like,
Yes, agree.
but we don't see them much.
Why do you think that?
No, I'm asking you. Like,
Oh, that wasn't a question, but
because you want to become something, so you seem to become like someone like that.
mm-hmm.
What are you waiting for?
What am I waiting for? Good question. I don't know. I'm thinking. I guess I'm still thinking about why I'm here, and what I can even offer to this world. Like what should I offer is the better question. And like there's a quote from Picasso. You told me this quote, but I don't remember it fully. Maybe you can fill me in. But he basically talks about like Picasso quoted. He was like, oh, like. My mom said, like, my mom told me I could become anything. Like, he's like, okay, if you become like a carpenter, you'll be like the best carpenter ever. If you become like, I don't know.
If you go to the army, you become general.
If you go to an army, you become a general. And if you become
priest, you become the pope.
You become a pope. And then he said, he says, I chose to become Picasso. No, he said I chose to become an artist, and then I became Picasso. Like, so he basically. I wrote about this idea before. It's basically called like being a multipotentialist. That's what I call myself. Basically, the fact that you can be like whatever you want to be. Like you can be good at whatever you want to be as long as you put in the work. And so I think I have like this aptitude for like many different things. But the fact remains like what do I want to be? What do I want to be good at and why? And I think like Picasso, like I will be whatever I do, like I will be the best at that. And that's just like my that's like my mantra. That's what I tell myself. And I know it's true. Because I will put in the effort if I have the passion for it and the interest in it. But I don't know what that is yet. I think I need to figure out what my, like, it's not really more like a career. Like, it's more like my objective, like my purpose. Like, if let's say I want to solve like we said, this global sustainability issue and the global crisis of like the temperatures rising, global warming. That's the word. Yeah. Let's say if I want to solve that, like everything I do should be in service of that. Every action I take.
The world's desperate for people like you.
That's true.
What would you do if you were invisible?
I was invisible? Okay, that one you just threw that one in there. if I was invisible, I don't know. Let's see. If I was invisible, I would probably go to like the White House, and I'd probably go inside the White House and try to figure out I don't know, everything they're doing right now and why they're doing it.
Why the White House?
I don't know. That was my first thought. I was just thinking about, we need to know what's going on in there. What's really going on? I feel like they're hiding a lot of stuff from us.
Like about what?
What do you mean?
Like they're hiding stuff from you?
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely hiding things. Like, I don't know exactly what, but they are. I just feel like it. Two, I would also go to, wait, okay, I also want to see if there's aliens at Area 51, so I would go there too. Yeah.
You believe that's true?
Yeah, I do actually.
You do?
I do.
Like in 51.
And maybe not there, but I do think they exist.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And whether they're like intelligent life or like microbial life, I don't know. But I do think they exist.
Well, like, would it matter if you just microbial?
No, I mean that means they exist. That's a sign of life. That would be like enormous. Like it would be earth-shattering.
Well, a sign of life is also water.
Yeah, that's true too.
And then we've seen water in the moon. I think Mars too.
Yep, they found it on Mars. Actually, I read in the news the other day, there was some sort of, I never looked at the article, I should have, but there was some sort of like, they found like some sort of a crash site like on Mars recently, and they think it came from like extraterrestrial life.
No, that was just the rover they sent. It's just their crash site. They got the photos for that.
Forget it, yeah.
So,
I didn't read it, so.
yeah.
There you go.
Clickbait.
Clickbait.
They
Yeah.
always do that. Like the titles was always cooler than the
No,
actual
it
article.
was just the. They just saw the picture of the parachute and what happened to like
Okay.
the other components of the.
It's kind of like if you saw The Martian, and it's kind of like in The Martian when he's trying to figure out how to, he loses contact with Earth, so he's trying to figure out how to get back in contact, and he remembers there's like a crash site on Mars, so he like takes his rover and gets it and assembles it up. Yeah, it's a great movie.
How would your perspective change if you find out that you were just in some sort of simulation?
Like The Matrix?
Not necessarily, but just simulation. Like meaning, for example, do you think animals know they are in a simulation in a way? Because animals in a zoo, they are in a simulation. Because
They know. Yeah.
animals in a zoo,
Yeah.
like if they were
It
born
just depends
there,
on the animal.
They
and how
never-
smart they are.
okay, pick an animal.
Like the elephant.
The elephant.
Mhm.
If they were born there, they've never seen anything out of it.
It all depends, because some of the animals are not born there. Some of them are taken there.
I'm assuming you're
Yes.
born there.
Okay.
You don't know what's out there.
Okay,
Like,
then they're not going to know. They've heard tales of
Okay,
other things.
but like, what if they somehow?
This is a bad question.
Okay.
Okay, keep going. Keep
No,
going.
no.
then. Tell me more.
Give me a better question.
No, I mean, I don't even know what the question is. You're just talking about animals right now.
The animals are just it's a metaphor for some sort of simulation type of thing.
Okay.
But if you don't like that, we'll switch the topic.
I think you just need to get to the point.
He's saying the world is a zoo.
Yes, I agree.
You're a part of the zoo.
I'm part of the zoo.
That's
Yes,
a better way to put it.
I like that better. Yeah. Okay, so what?
What if you found out that there's something more out there?
Okay, I have a good example of this actually. So there is a movie called Free Guy, and basically they are like, it talks about how there's like these people like develop intelligent life, but they're like stuck in a video game, like they're artificial life like in a video game, and so they think that's like their whole world, but then they find out they're in a video game, and there's more out there. I guess it doesn't really matter though, because guess what? They're still alive. They still get to live their life, and then they still can change their world, whatever they think, in whatever way they think they can. But here too, if we find out, like the Earth could just be like a marble in someone's pocket, like, yeah. And if we find out that we're just like really small and nothing we do matters, guess what? It still matters to us. Like it still matters to our way of living too. Like if what I do still affects how everyone else lives, that's good. That means we're making change, even if it doesn't affect whatever else is out there. I mean, it's going to affect us and our way of living too. So it doesn't matter if we're in a simulation.
Do you live for yourself or for others?
Wow, we're getting deep now. I like to think I live for myself. I think in the past I did live for others, but I think I've moved forward in a way that I know that ultimately my opinion is the only one that matters, because I'm the one who's to live this life. The other people, doesn't matter who they are, they're not living my life. And I think that there's also another saying too, where it's like I'm not I'm not who I think I am, and I'm not who you think I am. I am who I think that you think that I am. So basically, you're living based on other people's perception of you. And I do still notice myself like doing that from day to day. Like I notice myself like even studying at Granger. Like I notice myself like studying, and I see people looking at me, and I'm like, oh my god, like what are they thinking about me? Like I'm just studying here. Like I get this weird like thoughts in my head. But ultimately I'm like, it doesn't really matter. Like I'm just studying. They're just studying. Like why am I worried about what they're thinking? Like honestly, they should be worried about what I'm thinking. Like about them. I don't know. You just kind of, you have to live your life for yourself, yeah, ultimately. Because, like I said, you're the one who's living it in all senses. And even little things from to huge things. Your life purpose and all those things.
Like, you have all these thoughts. I also know you have a newsletter and you writing.
I don't call it that, but yeah.
Sure, but like you like writing essays, right?
Yes.
And what made you start writing those? Or how do you think that's helping you?
So I think that, like you said, I have a lot of thoughts in my head, like a lot of thoughts. And, usually when I'm just thinking too much, I make myself go on a run. Like I just run because it makes like all my worries go away. It's like that's scientifically proven, like exercising just makes you feel better. And I just realized, like running cannot be the only thing that I do because it's not, you're literally like outrunning your problems. I don't know if that's healthy. So like now, like I had pretty much like, I started writing before that too, but I wasn't like publishing those things. Even now, like when I write, like sometimes I feel like it's not good enough to be posted on there, so I don't post it. Like I have a bunch of drafts, but when I write and I feel like I have a thought in my head, I can just write for I could write for hours. Like I wrote an article the other day and I spent like 10 minutes on it. I spent like an hour on it, an hour and a half, just writing. And I think that's just something for me to get my thoughts out. And, it's literally called out of my mind because it comes out of my mind. And I don't know, some people that subscribe, like, I'm going to call out my parents here, like sometimes they'll be like, okay, like I don't like that you posted this. Like it sounds like you're unhappy. It sounds like you're uncomfortable. And I'm like, you know what? Well, I am uncomfortable with some things in my life and I am unhappy about some things in my life. Like that's just real life. And I think when people don't want to read things that are like sugar-coated, like they read enough of that, like in the news and everything. And it's hard to just, I don't want to sugarcoat my life. I want to talk about it for real because, people think, like if I wrote something, oh my God, like I had the best day today. Like this is the best day. This is awesome. People are going to be like, okay, like, she never talks about anything real. She's always happy. Like, I wish I could be like that. Whatever. I'm not always happy. And I'm also not always uncomfortable, not always sad. Like, I have a bunch of emotions. So it's good to just be able to share that in a real way.
Do you think, how do you think putting it out there helps you? Or do you think it's helping others?
Well, I only have like 15 subscribers, but that's fine. I don't really...
I mean, that's irrelevant.
Yes. But I guess my goal is to just... I guess intrigue people by what I write, and I write about anything, like I said, anything that's I'm thinking about, and maybe intrigue people, maybe help them recognize that like they're not the only ones feeling that way, help them realize that there's going to be another day, no matter how you're feeling, like you're going to live tomorrow, you're going to live the next day, hopefully, and life is going to go on, even if you feel you're at the end of your rope, like you're going to live to see another day.
Yeah, I mean. There's a song, "Life is a highway."
Yeah, that one's from Cars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is a highway.
Well, and which exit are you taking?
I don't think you get to decide as much.
Oh well.
Do you?
I don't think so. Yeah. Are you in the fast lane, the slow lane, or like the middle lane?
My lane.
Wow.
My lane.
Okay. Well, so when you get on the highway, you get on my lane. I don't think that's a lane option.
He flies. He doesn't take the
He
hat.
takes the shoulder.
Isn't that a Frank Sinatra song? Like My Way? Yeah, I took that one.
You do it your way.
I do it my way.
Well, okay. Yeah.
Do you know who Frank Sinatra is?
Yeah, I haven't heard the song though.
Oh, you should,
I know
man.
the song.
Like, he's like more American than everyone here together.
What does it mean to be American?
What does it mean to you? Actually, what does it mean to you?
Oh, what does it mean to me? I guess to me it means that...
Because you're the only one, the true one here.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, to be American, I think it just means... Honestly, I think you two are American too. Why not? I think the spirit of America...
Yeah.
No, but the spirit of America is to literally include everyone. Like, that's literally
true.
how America was formed. It's all immigrants. No one here is, like, truly American. No one's truly American. You think of American, you think of people that are like Irish, German, whatever. But guess what? They're from Ireland. What am I saying? Ireland and Germany and other places like that. No one here is truly American. In fact, the most American people are probably, I don't know, the British, because they came here first. So, but anyway, there's like the common saying, of course, like the one that everyone included in their college essays, like America is a melting pot of cultures, and my culture is this and that, and yeah. And you get mad at me when I say this too, but I say I'm Puerto Rican, and he's like, you're not Puerto Rican. You're not from Puerto Rico, but I am Puerto Rican.
You identify yourself as a Puerto Rican first?
No, But I would say I'm American first for sure. But I would say my ethnicity, my background is half Puerto Rican, and then on my mom's side, I'm like, I don't know. Literally, it's like a puzzle. I'm a bunch of different things. Like I'm Irish, German, French, Dutch, Swedish, like Scottish, a bunch of different things. Supposedly, I'm related to Thomas Jefferson too. Actually, yeah, that's what my grandpa tells me. So on my mom's side, yeah.
I'm related to Jesus Christ.
I feel like just pick an ancestor just so far back.
I have
in
no
history.
idea. Like that's what he tells me, and I'm just like, how do you know that? But I think it's cool. Sure, I'll go with it.
Wait, I mean, I don't know if that's true or not.
Me
But
neither.
I mean,
Supposedly, we also have ancestors that came over on the Mayflower too. You know what I'm talking? You know what that is?
The Mayflower?
Yeah.
What is that?
You know, the Pilgrims.
The ship.
Okay.
So the
Oh,
Nina,
yeah,
the
yeah.
Pinta, the Santa Maria. Yeah. And then but the Mayflower is like the first one that
Well, they
like
didn't-
Thanksgiving and like all those things.
I mean, but they
It's
were
like
not
a
even
good
British.
colonist, no.
They were more like, they were Spanish.
Were they?
Well, I don't know about Mayflower, but the one you mentioned, like Santa
Look
Maria
at those.
and all
They
those.
were definitely, yes. They were
Like,
from Spain.
The
Yes.
first one
The
ever.
Mayflower, I think, was from Britain. Yeah.
Yeah, that was later.
Okay. It was way later. I agree. Yes.
Yeah, that's another.
That's different. The first one was Christopher Columbus.
Yeah.
He also was a bad guy, but we're not going to get into that.
Well, that's besides the point.
Okay.
You wanted to find India, but you found the U.S. Do you know that?
Well, you got lucky.
Yeah, and he thought it was India.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, how would you know that India exists? And just
Well, because they
They
would
were
buy
like
stuff.
they were sailing and then mapping it, like drawing it. That's what they were doing.
Because India would sell, I think, a lot of things.
What?
India was like advanced, I think.
No, like, how would you discover India
Well, because
if you
it
didn't
was
know
known.
it existed?
It was known.
You had to discover it first. Yeah.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
if you're out there to discover it,
Yeah.
how can you say, okay,
It's- If you look up like old maps, they look like ridiculous because they had no idea what the thing looked like, so they were just kind of drawing like
right.
blobs and whatever else. But now that we have satellite images, we know what the United States looks like and all those things. So
But they knew even beforehand. It's pretty rough, but it's like pretty simple. It's pretty like
Yeah.
accurate.
I don't know. Actually, so I used to think that Alaska was an island. I didn't know. Like up until like 5th grade, like I thought Alaska was an island because like that's the way they draw it, like on the maps. They draw it like
Oh,
they
yeah,
draw it as
yeah,
like
yeah.
a thing.
Like
And
outside.
so someone told me they had like driven to Alaska, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. How did you get to Alaska?
I mean, Canada,
You drove there?
to go through Canada, and it was actually it was Russia. It was owned by Russia,
Yes.
and the U.S. bought it for $10 million. You know that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
The best
Alaska.
deal ever.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the same with like the Louisiana Purchase too. They had to buy Louisiana from the French.
Great deal too.
And then to Texas. And Texas and New Mexico they got in the what's the war
the
called?
Mexican-American War.
Mexican-American War.
1848,
Yep.
and they,
Basically Mexico was like, we're done. Like, and they were like, okay, well, we're taking Texas and we're taking New Mexico. So
and California was all Mexico and everything.
yep. Interesting. You should learn.
Yeah, you should learn
Look it
it.
up.
Come on, man.
Okay.
No, come on. It's interesting actually. Like, I actually really enjoyed social studies growing up. So
That was like my best.
I learned a different social study, so I don't know about
Yeah.
this.
Do you know who
tell us a piece of Indian history.
Gandhi?
He also was not a good guy, but keep going.
What do you want to know?
Oh my goodness. Everyone's worse here.
I
What
don't
do you
know.
wanna
Tell
know?
me a fun fact about India that I don't know.
Pakistan, Bangladesh were all a part of India first. Do you know that? Like it was all like a big country, and then it all got partitioned, and what's left now is India. Like,
Why'd they get partitioned? Do you know?
I can talk about why India and Pakistan had the partition. That was just because differing sentiments between the two communities, which is Hindu and Muslims, and there was a guy, what was his name, who was promoting having a separate country for their people, like the Muslim country, and they wanted it to be Pakistan, but Gandhiji was against it because he had this one United Nation idea, and a lot of it had to do with how the just the Britishers were grouping people against each other. It was like it was a very peaceful country before. Like people, like there were no differences, I would say, in terms of how people treated each other in regards to their religion, but they were pitted against each other just so that they could rule better So it was just divide and conquer in a way. And the scars still remain to this day, which is very unfortunate. Like you can still see the hatred, or not the hatred, but still that prevalent sentiment that
The resemblance.
yeah, that okay, they are bad, we're good, and vice versa, right? And it was very ugly when the partition happened. Like I read a book called was trained to there's a city in Pakistan. I forgot the name of. So the book is about that partition period, and he describes what used to happen during that time. It was just both the sides would keep so like if it's still all one country, right? You still have like different religions like Sikh, Hindus, and everyone living in that Pakistan area, and like people had to basically choose if they want to live in India or Pakistan, right? Because if you're dividing the country, where do you want to be? So a lot of migration was happening between the two countries, and Muslims and Hindus and Sikhs too, they were like, so Pakistan was supposed to become like a Muslim country, and all the other religions were supposed to come to India. But it was up to the people, right? Which country they wanted to choose. So what would happen is it got ugly in the sense that people from Pakistan would kill many families like with those religions like Sikhs or Hindus, and just send those trains with dead bodies over. And the same thing would happen from this side.
What year was this?
1947.
Oh wow.
And then, but like India became a country in like 48 or 46.
1947.
History is
47,
it's just crazy. 'Cause you don't. I'd never heard about this before, of course, because like you have like a limited knowledge based on where you live. I guess it was just good. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I think it's bad.
How would you want to learn all the history in the world?
A lot of studying. I think it's hard because you know the history that you experience, right? But we weren't alive in 47, of course. But I don't know.
I mean, if the news are fake, imagine history.
Well, oh wow, I saw that tweet you posted. Yeah, but but
Think about it.
on my favorite, okay, this is I guess my favorite piece of history that I was telling him about this too, but it's Chernobyl. Like Chernobyl is a thing that like crazy like interests me. I've always wanted to visit there, even though it's like radioactive. I've always wanted to go there, and now that it's like Russia kind of took over like Ukraine, like that was one of the first things they secured, and I was like my first thought was like I wanted to visit that. Like, I mean, it probably one day it'll probably open again, but it's just very interesting. I remember I watched the whole show. I learned about it. I wrote my final paper on it. I took a class called History of Environment at IMSA, and that class is basically about how we can like use like the past to solve climate change today. And so I wrote about like reforestation and how like if we leave places like if we like intentionally like just left places like alone, kind of like we're doing with Chernobyl, like we could be able to like reforest the planet and give back more like oxygen and get rid of CO2 too. But I don't know, Chernobyl's super cool. But I always think about that, and I think about time, and I think about like how they had to just leave and all their stuff is still there, and yeah, and then we go back to the Future and my obsession with that too. But
Yeah, I think the Chernobyl show is like really good.
it was really good.
I mean, showing that, and yeah, I feel like I also want to like just visit Chernobyl because
Supposedly it's safe to visit now. I don't know.
No, I mean some parts.
Yes.
Like there's a Veritasium video about it. He visits Chernobyl, and it makes you think so deeply because you see all these buildings that were left all these years ago just in the state they are.
Yep.
And,
they had a whole like what they call that, like a amusement park there too.
Yeah.
And they just left the amusement park, and we hadn't even opened yet, and they just left everything. Like it was a Ferris wheel, like I don't know, just there's like a carousel too. It's crazy. It's just really wild. I don't know.
Did the horses in the carousel die?
Yeah, all of them. Actually, they had to kill all the dogs there too. That was sad.
Yeah.
They went in with guns and just shot all the stray dogs, because they didn't want them reproducing. And long story short, they didn't get them all, and there's still some that are.
They buried them, right? Like they would kill them in this.
Yeah. There's also a bunch of animals there too. There's a huge catfish in one of the ponds. It's actually not from what you think it is. It's not from mutation. It's just because they weren't fished, and they just literally genetically evolved to be bigger. They're huge, and that's just you think about like human interaction, how much we've like I don't know, we've messed with animals to the point where they can't get as big as they used to get, and now we've got like huge catfish. And there's also another famous horse. They're called I can't even pronounce it. Sorry, I'm not going to. But it's like Przewalski's horse, like these horses that have like white feet and like a white mane. But they were like an endangered horse. But they let a pack of them like loose there to grow because they knew no one was going to mess with them because they were in the zone.
Oh, like someone after the thing happened, someone decided to put them back in.
Yeah, like scientists. But it's very interesting. Actually, I got to see like a group of those at I think Brookfield Zoo, and I remember I was like, I guess you're like fangirling because I was like, oh my god, these are the ones that are at Chernobyl. Ah. Yeah. But yeah, it's very cool. I would love to visit because I think they have wolves there too, like a bunch. And it's safe, but you have to walk around with people and like a tour guide, and they don't let you wander off really. But I think it'd be interesting to go take pictures too. I saw someone online. He like he goes back there like every 10 years and takes pictures. So he has one from 2000 and then like 2010 and like 2020, and you can see like he takes pictures of like the same room in the same spot, and you can see like how it's decayed over the years. It's pretty interesting. Like there was like a bookshelf that like caved in over 20 years. Yeah.
If you had to call yourself, so today's May 3rd, 2022.
I think it's May 2nd.
May 3rd.
Okay.
And yes.
Okay.
And wait, what day is it today?
I think it's May 3rd. I think you're right.
Oh, May 4th actually.
It's not May 4th
May
tomorrow.
3rd.
May 3rd. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that myself. I'm kidding.
Okay.
So year 2042,
Okay.
May 3rd.
To call myself call myself here
You only have 30 seconds. You're calling yourself right now.
into the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you want to?
What I wanna know?
What question would you ask that would tell you
The state of the world.
No.
everything,
What's
and-
this like?
About me?
Whatever you want to ask. But what is one question you would ask yourself in order to that would satisfy you the most?
I need to think a minute to think about this.
Okay.
Let's see.
Drink some water if you like.
I think I will. Thank you.
You as well.
I'm good.
Me as well.
Okay, I got my question. Okay, question is, how are you changing the world? That's the question. How
That
long-
could go
Yeah,
very, very good or like very badly.
agree. But
What would you want the answer to be?
oh wow, okay. I don't know. I don't know. If I knew the answer to that, I would know what I'm doing right now too.
No, imagine you know. What would you want the answer to be? Just imagine it. Just imagine it.
I want the answer to be that.
What would you want? Like, call yourself and you got something in your ear.
Yeah.
And the cochlea and everything is gonna like make sense for your brain.
Wow.
What would
okay.
you want? What would you want the answer to be? Like just as it comes out. You don't have to think about anything.
I am thinking. I honestly don't know. I would want the answer to be that I am changing the world. That I'm doing. That not only am I changing the world, like I'm being. I don't want to say recognized for it. I want to say, but I want to be like a leader in the field. You know, whatever I'm doing, changing the world. Like I want to be a leader in that field, and I want people to be like, she is the one that, like she's like not only like she's good at what she's doing. Like she's not doing something that like, she's not someone that's like trying to like steal ideas from other people. Like she's the one that's like coming up with these ideas. She's not only she's coming up with them, she's putting them into action. She's the one that, she definitely chose the right field. She's doing what she's supposed to be doing, and I don't know, like it just seems like her thing. Like I don't know. And somehow I'm helping people. Somehow I don't know, just yeah.
I think if like future self of you, I don't think you would answer that question.
Yeah, how do I think my future self would answer that question? Hopefully she'd have a simpler answer.
I think she won't answer.
She won't answer.
I think I would answer to myself. Just
Yeah.
like, no,
She probably wouldn't answer,
screw
actually.
you. Just figure it out.
Yeah.
Actually, no. I know Savannah, and she would definitely be like, "Oh, let me tell you, this is what you're gonna be doing." Oh my
But
god!
what if like
And
you're wiser and like, you know that
she probably would.
you need
She'd
to
probably
figure
be
it
like,
out yourself?
because if you watch Back to the Future, like there is a point where Doc dies. Sorry, spoiler. But the movie's been out for 20 years. Hopefully you saw it. I don't.
Almost like 40 years. now,
Yeah, not for
so-
a long time. Anyway, so he, like Doc dies, and like and so Marty's like, I gotta save him, whatever. So he's like, oh, I have a time machine. I can just use the time machine to go back and tell him. So like he brings it back to like 5 minutes before he's supposed to leave, and he like gives him like a note, basically says, you're gonna die, like do something to stop it. And Doc like rips it up, whatever. And but then he like he goes back to 1985, and Doc gets shot, and he's like, Doc, like, oh my God, you died, and Doc's like, I lived, and he because he's wearing a bulletproof vest. So I think there's some, like, I don't know if it would violate like the laws of like time travel and like the time continuum and like telling your past self like what you're going to be doing. I don't know how that, because that action itself could change the whole course. So maybe if because she has a lot of knowledge about time travel, she would probably be like, I can't tell you, just keep going. That's all that was probably what she would say.
Yeah, like that would be the perfect answer. Just keep going.
Just keep going.
But
keep moving forward.
But the thing is, yeah, like these events are very chaotic in the sense of like one thing would like it just creates a whole different.
Yeah, and then again, Back to the Future. He created a different time continuum. But I'll quote one more movie. But there's a movie called Meet the Robinsons. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. But the whole movie is based on the sense of it's kind of like time travel, but this kid creates like a device where it can like you put like the nodes like on your head, and it can like whatever you're thinking, you can like visualize that on the screen. So like it can like this lady thought about a memory she had, like her wedding, and like it put the wedding on the screen. But he was like an orphan and all these things, but he created like this awesome device. And he was able to go to the future, and he saw like what he became, and he invented like time travel. He invented like all these different things, and the one saying they keep saying like throughout the movie is like, keep moving forward. Like, keep moving forward and don't look back. Keep moving forward, because if you keep moving forward, yeah, things are going to change. Things are going to get better. Keep moving forward. So, yeah, keep moving forward.
The only way.
Truth.
What advice would you give? Yeah, you're still pretty young, but.
Oh, thank you. You're younger than me.
That's true. No, but you're still pretty young.
Okay.
But you see, you have a long life to live. But what advice would you give to a
young Savannah?
Younger Savannah.
How old?
Well, you pick. You can pick. You can pick different stages. What advice would you give her? What should she ignore?
I would probably go back to like 12-year-old Savannah, just because she was really usually an awkward point. You know, like it's like puberty and like trying to figure out who you are, and then it's like in middle school too, and like middle school sucks. Like that was the worst time of my life, just because I think it was really awkward. Like girls thought they were like hot shit, and then like boys were just not nice, and I don't know. And everyone is very like you get very self-conscious, and I think I would go back and tell myself, you know, like I don't know, like I don't know if I'm allowed to swear in this, but you say fuck them. Like who cares? Like I think I would tell myself, like, you know, you're great as you are. Like you're becoming who you're supposed to be. Like, and there were times like I did not care, but like I also felt like this pressure that I had to like look good, I had to like act right, and all these things. And I think I would tell myself like it doesn't matter. Like you're becoming who you're supposed to be. Like these girls, like they don't want to be what you're gonna be. Like they want to be like I don't know. They want to go and be whatever. I don't know what do they want to be. Like some girl, they want to go be like nurses. They want to be like a vet or something, or they want to go be like strippers. Like they want to be whatever they want to be, and they don't want to be what you want to be. So they're on a different track. So let them do their own thing, and you do your own thing, and just keep going. Just keep going. Yeah. And and I would also tell her, just do what you find interesting. Don't do things because you think you're supposed to do them. Yeah, I would give the same advice to myself right now too.
Time moves by the same. Like time goes on, but the same advice, the same.
Same advice persists, because I think in some ways, like I forgot. There's some speech, like some video I saw on YouTube, but she talks about it's this girl's birthday, and she talks about how like even though she's turning 20 or whatever age she's turning, she's also 19, she's also 18, she's also 17, like she's also all those years that came before her, because she's got the experience of all those ages, and like all the little versions of yourself, you're kind of like a Russian nesting doll, you know what those are? Like you're the little ones inside. You are that, because all the little versions of yourself are inside of you. So you're all those things. And when you recall like those memories from those younger ages too, you're just becoming, I don't know, like the more evolved version of yourself. You're like a Pokemon. You're becoming the next evolution.
And I think that's why it makes it hard when you go off track and you do something that you didn't want to do, and you kind of lose track of your intuition, and then.
Or you do something that doesn't feel like you, because it feels like, why would I do this? Like, why would I do this? Or maybe you didn't know it wasn't going to serve you, but it feels like it's not serving you. So what do you do then?
then it's so hard to come back to the inner one because
you've changed it a little bit. You
And
changed yourself a little bit. But you can always return to that person too, because you are that person, like I said, at the center, at the core. You have to recognize who you are. That remains unchanged.
it's just harder to find, to get back to.
I don't think so. I think that I think the only way to not lose it is if you recognize you're in a bad situation, you need to get out of it. There's like Arnold Beckman, right? So he has like so you know the big Beckman building, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's he has like 7 rules of living, and they're on the wall in there. And one of the rules is like never do anything half-heartedly. Like either get into it or get out of it. So I don't know. I guess take that advice to heart. I think it's good advice.
I think that is someone I would want to talk to.
I would
Like-
always talk to
or
him
like
too. He lived like 104 years, a long time. He lived from 1900 to 2004.
He's massively underrated, like massively.
Oh, underrated.
I do not
or-
know much about him.
He is.
I spent a lot of time in that building.
he's
I'm always
ins-
reading about him when I go
He's
in there.
insane. You said you were gonna do many things in the summer and so on, so on, so on. You should that book. I'm gonna try to read the book.
I read his Wikipedia page too. He's just like he's crazy. He's wild.
Like
Like he started out and he grew up like pretty much like near Illinois. He went there and it was a really small school, whatever. He used to do chemistry and some other things. But he like loved chemistry, and he ended up developing like the first pH meter, and he created his own company called like Beckman Instruments. And then he also after that he was drafted to go to the World War I, and he was in line to go to Russia to be drafted to Russia, and the person before him got drafted, and then the war ended like after that. Like so he was lucky enough to not be drafted, and then he met his wife. His wife was like a nurse in like the I don't know in the department whatever, and then they got married, and then I don't know, they decided that before they died they were going to give away like all their money, so there was nothing left, and like their children would have to like figure out like how to become their best on their own. But his wife actually died I think at 85, so way before him, like 15 years before him. And he was sad, but he decided to start the Arnold Beckman Foundation to give away the money and just to continue to fund other projects. So he built the building here. He taught at Caltech for a while. So he actually donated more buildings to Caltech. He donated like a research center there.
yeah, he has like 4 buildings.
A theater there. He's donated a bunch more. Like it's very cool. And like that building on the quad was built in like 85, and even the interior you can tell it's like the 80s. But I like it a lot. It's very cool, very classic. But he's a really cool guy. Really cool. It would have been cool to meet. Would you consider him a visionary? I would say yes.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many ways. Like he was an engineer, scientist, entrepreneur, philanthropist, like a bunch of different things.
Like he's the definition of like if you want to do something, you can do it, because he
Yeah.
did it. He did it all. Yeah.
I think we need more of these like more grounded examples, when we think of visionaries. Like
Yeah.
people's minds always go to like, okay, Steve Jobs.
But there's a lot of different types. You can be a visionary
Yeah.
in any sense. Like
Right, exactly.
It doesn't have to be like Elon Musk. Like
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
Like
visionaries come in all shapes.
I also take
shapes and
like
sizes.
the company Psionic. You heard of
Yeah.
this? Yeah. So that guy, I got to speak with him when he came in for engineering open house, and like I definitely think he's a visionary too. Like he studied at EE here, and then he went and got a master's in neuroscience, and now he's making prosthetic hands, and his prosthetic hands are like the most advanced on the market, and he's still here at say Research Park. It's crazy. Like why is he still here? I don't know. He must like it here. It's crazy. And I talked to some of his interns, and they're like mechanical engineering students, and that's their internship is also their senior design project. So they get to actually make like prosthetics like in their schoolwork. Like that seems like awesome. Like I would love to do that. So I was talking to them. I was like, "How'd you get your job?" Like I want to get that job. Like very cool.
Yeah, Psionic. Yeah.
It sounds like a fake company. It sounds like if you've seen Terminator, there's like God, what is the Skynet? Like it sounds like something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you never know what type of things would come out, and I think people like that. Well, like if I had to think, what would they tell you? Like Arnold Beckman or something. Like what would they tell you? Or like John Allen, like for example.
Oh wait.
Yeah.
Okay, so like Elizabeth Holmes, like what she did, like Theranos. I think about that in Psionic, but would she be a visionary? She was like the opposite. She did not do anything really. She faked all of her results.
I think
It's a tricky case.
She had an idea though.
She had an idea about it, and
Maybe given enough time, she would have done something. I don't know.
I don't know. Like, and people still think I was watching. There's a show on Hulu, but I watch too many shows. I think, but
it's a good documentary.
It's good. And she talks about how like they had her initial idea seemed feasible, And she really just thought she was going to be like the next Steve Jobs. And she like went to her professor and was like, oh, I want to be in this research group. And he was like, you're too young. And she was like, no, like I can prove it. And then like she proved it and she got in. And I don't know, her whole idea was like, you can take one drop of blood and do like 100 blood tests. And to this day, people still say like, that's impossible. Like that would never have worked. But what's to say it was impossible? Like what's impossible? Like
the thing that her mistake was she hyped it up too much.
And then she faked it. She got like all this pressure. And I think she just thought she had to fake it or something.
Yeah.
I think she was a little bit crazy too. She also like faked her voice too. If you listen to her talking, she like deepened her voice on purpose so people would take her seriously. And she also wore black turtlenecks like Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs, yeah. They mention it in the documentary.
It's so weird. Yeah, I don't know. I think that she's on house arrest right now. I think she's not in house arrest. She's actually like out right now, but she's gonna be sentenced pretty soon. She was found
I
guilty.
think it's still going on, right? The case, yeah.
She's supposed to be sentenced in September, I think. But
Yeah.
that's crazy. Because you think about like I feel like ambitious like that, and I'm like, how do I like that? That's like kind of like toxic ambition. Like, how do you make sure your ambition doesn't become that? I don't know, maybe you just don't be crazy. I mean, you be crazy, but be crazy in a good way.
Well, it's like, like Steve Jobs, for instance. Like he'd had a lot of promises like that. Like like the first thing when he went to sell the computers, he had no idea how to make the computers. He just kind of figured out Wozniak and stuff like with Atari and everything.
But he knew. But he was a difference though, because he knew his product was going to work. Like Wozniak had like guaranteed him that it would like worked, and then he showed him how it worked first.
Okay, but what if it didn't?
But like she started a company with a product that didn't even work, and then she started getting people like investors interested because she was like faking the results. She went to hospitals and was doing medical trials on people that were dying, and she knew her thing didn't work. Like that's insane. How could you like live with yourself? I would feel so guilty. Yeah.
And I don't think she was bad in the beginning. It's just like
no, it just kind of spiraled.
She was just made one bad decision, and just like they went the next one.
It just kept piling on.
And then you just become like this completely like.
They call that like snowballing. It snowballed.
But yeah, I mean, that's why you need to be really careful with small things because they become big things. Like with your behavior, like this, like like little things like lies or like manipulating people.
The good thing is just don't lie. How about that? You don't lie.
Yeah, no, exactly. Or like you're doing something bad and you think like, oh, it was not a bad, and like the next one is a lot easier to do because you did something bad already. And
yeah.
So to end our show, we have a section called overrated and underrated.
Okay. I kind of got a preview of that earlier, but yeah. Okay.
And you say a statement and you say overrated or underrated.
Okay, go ahead.
Watching TV shows as a way to understand culture, people in the world. Overrated or underrated?
Underrated. Did I say why? Oh, okay. It's underrated because actually there's a whole thing about like how, Friends, like people watching Friends in different countries, people learned English that way. And learned how, like American customs and culture, but just by watching Friends. Like there's been like multiple, like many occurrences of that. And I think just in the opposite too, like we watch things like Parasite, like the movie Parasite here. I know it's not a TV show, but if you watch the movie Parasite, like a lot of people like didn't want to watch in the beginning because it was Korean, and you had to read your movie. Like, oh my God, I have to read my movie? Like, what? But I didn't mind, and I think a lot of people learned a lot about like Korean culture and other things just by watching that movie, and yeah, I think it's definitely underrated. You can learn a lot from other people and other cultures through TV shows.
But what about time invested?
Time invested?
You could put into
I'm not saying just watch TV shows the rest of your life. I'm saying if you have free time and you have nothing else to do and you want to watch a TV show, I say go for it.
But let's say you have a project and...
Everything in moderation, including moderation. Another one of Beckman's things. Yeah.
But say you have a project.
Yeah.
And the project is really hard, it's not working.
Okay.
And let's say that if you work a little, 1 hour more, you would finish it and like it would work. But because it's too hard, you're like demotivated, you have distractions, so you would go on.
That's up to yourself. Show. I can't force you to do the thing. Like I can't force you to go finish your project. You know it needs to be done. If you're gonna finish a project, go finish. If you want to watch a TV show, watch a TV show. You're an adult. Do it. Figure it out.
But that TV shows are very addicting.
Okay. Hopefully the person knows what they're doing and knows time management and can figure it out. And if the project's worth finishing it, they'll finish it. Maybe not now. Maybe they're gonna watch a TV show, but they'll finish it.
But it also doesn't always send the right message. Like you cannot take it as an absolute truth.
Mm-hmm.
Like
That's true.
If you don't know something about a culture, and if you're just
You're just watching TV shows.
Right. You cannot just.
I say take everything you learn from a TV show with a grain of salt, because there's everything you learn is going to be a little bit, what do they call it, like glorified or like exaggerated or like Hollywood.
Dramatized.
Yeah, dramatized. That's the word.
Yeah, I think it does help though. Like my sister learned English way better than me because she would just watch a lot of shows. I didn't.
Yeah, I think this is different, but like reading books. Like there's actually I went to the ISO research fair last week, and there was someone was doing a research on how like basically if you read books when you're younger, you become more empathetic, like really empathetic. So like when I was young, like I read like probably hundreds of books, and I think that had led me to become more feeling and more empathetic and more able to understand how other people feel and why they feel that way. And I don't know. So it might be the same with TV shows too. You can kind of learn, I don't know, why people act the way they act. You can learn human behavior by watching TV shows.
Back to the Future portrayed a future of hoverboards, flying cars, a lot of these technologies. So, Back to the Future's portrayal of the future, overrated or underrated?
What do you mean, like overrated or underrated? Like,
Well, because he gave people a sense of like, okay, we're gonna have
it's
flying
gonna be
cars,
crazy.
we're gonna have these things. Like that sense I created in people's minds of what the future would look like.
I think it's underrated. Like I would still love a future to look like that, and not exactly like that. I would like the hoverboard. That's really the only thing I want. In the flying cars, I think for sure. I think everyone thought they were gonna have flying cars by like 2005, and that just didn't happen. Like if you go back to, my dad made me watch like a Transformer show from like an episode from like the 80s, and the show's set in like 2010, and they're like flying around and like the Transformers, and I don't know. It's just I don't know, it's a cool idea. I just don't know if flying cars will ever actually happen, just because of all the regulations that have to be in place. You'd have to have like floating roads. I don't know how do you explain that. If you watch Back to the Future 2, they have like floating roads. Yeah.
I mean, that's sad that we cannot do things because of the government, but.
It is sad. It is, and that's the whole thing with the drones right now too.
Yeah.
People have drones. Like Amazon wants to do the whole drone initiative still, but they can't do it because of the whole government like flying in airspace, and how do they do that unrestricted?
Yeah. I wonder if I do the thing, if they'll come and stop me or something.
They probably will.
I don't think so though.
I think if you don't fly, I think there's a certain height you can't fly to. If you fly like low enough, you'll be fine.
Like, what's the difference between me being on a bus, like on the second floor of a bus? There's no difference.
Here's the thing: they know
You can't.
Yeah, it's comfort. It's comfort versus uncomfort, and like they know what they know is comfortable, right? So everyone, what they know is like okay, like it's keep the tradition alive, right?
Yeah.
But once you step outside of the comfort zone, they're like, oh my god, we've never experienced this before. Like, what do we do?
They will hate you,
They
think
don't
it's
hate
a
you.
gray area.
They hate you until it becomes normalized, and then it's fine.
and then you become a scapegoat.
And then there's something else that you want to do, and then they're like, okay, like we can't do that.
I mean, throughout history, people who like
People don't like change.
people who invented like fire, people who invented like the wheel, all those things, they were hated at first.
The same way, I'm going back to Back to the Future, but in the movie, remember he started doing like the Johnny B. Good song. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't know.
Right,
you saw the movie too.
yeah.
And then they didn't know like what that music was, and they were like, wow, what is this? But like later on they're gonna love it, like in like the 70s and 80s. But
I think it's just part of a human condition. Just at first, people
we don't like what we don't know. We don't like what we don't understand. That's better.
And somehow you need to find the inner force to say, whatever. You hate me, that's okay.
But you could wrap it back to my major too. Like I don't like it because I don't understand it. I mean, I probably don't like the way it's being taught. Really, I think I probably would like the concept actually if they were taught like hands-on, in a more hands-on way, in a way that wasn't like, a way that didn't feel like I don't want to say condescending, but like in a way that they kind of assume that you know everything already. And I want them to kind of teach me like I'm a 5-year-old and I don't know what's going on. Teach me in a way that I'm just gonna I have a project that I want to do, like we talked about earlier. Like if it's something that I want to do, like I will figure out how to do it. Yeah.
Going to college as a STEM major as opposed to more liberal arts major, underrated or overrated?
Depends on what you want to do later.
Well, because the assumption is that if you do a STEM major, you're gonna have more money, you're gonna have more jobs, you'll be free, you'll be rich, happy, and famous. That's what everyone in engineering seems to believe. While other people who do other things.
I say overrated. Just because I think you can make money in whatever you want to do and be happy in whatever you want to do. Now, if you do like a liberal arts major like English or like writing and all those things, are you necessarily going to be like advancing technology? No, but you're probably not in that major because that's what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're pre-med, maybe. No, that's a little bit different. But if you want to become like a famous author and that's what you want to do, and you don't care about the other stuff, then do that. But I think too, there's an advantage to studying STEM if you want to be the one that's going to be changing the world and changing technology, because right now changing the world pretty much means like advancing technology, and or changing the way we look at the world too.
Narrative.
Yeah, so maybe actually you could change the world's narrative too. You could become like some sort of journalist, like world journalist, or world changing, like an author with a different point of view, a view never heard before. There's no reason any type of person can change the world.
Or change narrative through technology.
Yeah.
Cough, cough, Steve Jobs.
I say do what you want to do, even if you don't know what it is. Go in that direction. Figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hard part. Figure it out.
It is, because you have to separate what you think from what others have told you what you think.
And how do you make sense of that?
I don't think there's any good way to. I think you just have to think, like if I asked you right now, like, what are you going to do with your life? The first thought that comes to your mind, that's what you want to do. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's your instinctual response, I would say. The instinct. And then like when you start second guessing yourself and start thinking, well, what about this, what about that? You probably don't want to do that. And I probably need to follow that advice myself too.
That's probably a good place to end. So thank you
Sounds
so much
good.
for coming and talking to us.
Thank you for having me.
Hopefully we didn't take too much time off your studying for your finals.
Nope. I mean, you did, but it's okay. Gonna get back on it. Gonna get back on it right now. So.
Hope it's like equivalent to like watching a TV show.
Yeah, it probably would have just been watching something else. I got food before this, so I didn't have to eat after this. So, same thing. Yeah.
Good luck for finals.
Thank you. You too.
No.
You as well.
Okay, thank you.
You as well.
All right. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed listening to Breaking Out of the System, like visionaries, being a multi-potentialist, and just doing things that you like just because you like doing them. Life can be hard, and finding your place in this world can be even harder. So putting a little faith in yourself matters a lot, and just taking the time to understand yourself and seeing how you can really contribute to the world is something that we should all think about. And I think Savannah did a really good job explaining and talking to that with us.
Yeah.
So.
And before we end, where can people find you online?
Oh, okay. I don't know. Outofmymind.substack.com. Check it out. Yeah.
We'll put the link in the description so it's easier for people to look at it.
And that's where you write.
That's where I write my my essays on whatever comes out of my mind. There is no set timeline. They just come out randomly. So. Yeah.
If you have any questions for Savannah or something you would want to talk with her about, just put it in the comments and we'll do our best to get it to her and get it answered for you. Stay curious, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.